Well, the word entanglements has become popular lately because there was a famous person who admitted to an affair and they referenced their affair as an entanglement. Now, truth be told, for the 3 years I've had my YouTube channel, I have used the word entanglement for a couple years now because one viewer had said it to me when I was getting ready to be entangled in something, and that word struck a chord in my soul, and I think about it often. And when I heard that word thrown around the past couple of weeks, I said, that's a powerful word. It's a powerful word, entanglement. What is an entanglement? Something that you get into, but it's hard to get out. Think of a spider's web. You get sucked into something, and the struggle to get out is almost life and death. It can almost suck the soul out of your being. The worst you will feel in life, one of the lowest points you will feel in life, is when you feel you are stuck somewhere. You're doomed. You can't get out. One of the harshest punishments in jail is solitary confinement, and you feel like you're never going to get out. It breaks you mentally. I've been feeling stuck in New Jersey these past couple months, and it's been very tough mentally. But in this video, I want to talk about the 3 biggest entanglements, and not just what they are, but how to mitigate some of your risk if you want to venture into one of these entanglements, how to kind of mitigate some of the risk so that you can have some upside, an exit strategy. Always have an exit strategy. What was Jason Bourne doing when he was a COVID operative guy, like a CIA guy? He's always looking for an exit. Always look for an exit. Why? Because you're going to need it in an emergency. The 3 biggest entanglements in a human's lifetime are these. The biggest entanglement of them all is having a child, because it's something you can never escape. It comes from your body. You're financially liable for it for 18 years. And even beyond there's something lingering around that. It's the ultimate entanglement, having a child. How do you mitigate some of that risk? Well, you could totally eliminate that risk by getting a vasectomy. Okay, totally avoid the entanglement of a child. And maybe not just initially, maybe after 1 child, maybe after 2 child. Maybe you do want to have 1 child. Maybe it's your dream. See, it's my dream to be single and be free, but for some people, it's their dream to have a family. But like everything in life, like going to a buffet, if you overeat, if you entangle yourself in something, it's very hard to get out. If you go to a buffet and you eat too much, hard to get out of your seat. If you start a family and you have too many kids, very hard to get out of that predicament. Mitigate your risk by really evaluating, do you want to have kids and how many? Get a vasectomy, use birth control. The second biggest entanglement in your life is owning a house. Obviously I think about that often because I owned a house, and that was one of my mental breakdowns in life when I went to sell my house. It was very stressful when I bought my house, and it was very stressful when I sold my house. It's a huge entanglement. It sets your financial budget, your financial hardships or blessings. It sets the tone for your finances in your life, your housing cost. There is no entanglement greater than closing on a house. That's why it takes at least 30 days to get the paperwork right, to get the legal inspections, to check your background financially if you can even get a mortgage. Even when you pay off your mortgage, you're still entangled with the county, entangled with neighbors. The financial entanglement of owning a home is like no other. Never take it lightly. How do you mitigate that risk? You have to learn to live in a budget, to only buy what you can afford, to always have a 6 to 12 month emergency fund. That way, even if that property goes down so low, you could always get out of it. You're never stuck in it. When the housing crisis happened in America in 2008 and property values dropped, I was entangled in a property. And my property value went below, what I could sell it for and get out of the property, meaning that I owed more on the property than it was worth. I was underwater. It was the ultimate entanglement. And I had to wait several years before the values picked up. And that was a horrible feeling, to feel stuck somewhere in a web of municipalities, of mortgages, of neighbors. Very tough. The third biggest is a marriage. A marriage is the ultimate relationship entanglement. The top 3 entanglements in your life is having a child, having a house, and having a spouse. Relationships are hard to separate from. Just a boyfriend and girlfriend, hard to separate from. Some people who troll me online, hard to separate from them. They're psychotic. They stalk me. That's why they come in here. They just automatic thumbs down. They're severely disturbed individuals. Imagine when you separate from your spouse and you have to dissolve a house. You have to figure out an arrangement with your children. See, this is why a divorce totally destroys a person's finances and mental health and physical health. Why? Because you have all 3 entanglements in one big life experience. You have children together, you have a house together, and you have a relationship together. And a divorce is the separation of all those things at once. It causes a mental meltdown, a financial meltdown. Lawyers and back and forth in the courtroom goes on for years. I know a guy who got divorced. He had 1 kid. He had a vasectomy after that 1 kid. Good job. He got a divorce. They had a separation agreement. 2 years later, the separation agreement, they're renegotiating. And it's a disaster. Entanglement is something that's hard to get out of. It's something that can make you feel hopeless because you're stuck. When you're looking at 18 years of a commitment to something, when you're looking at 30-year mortgage, when you're looking at till death do us part, that can crush the soul. Why do people get caught in these entanglements? In children, in homes, in spouses, because it's part of the human experience. And those aren't bad things. They're only bad when you don't mitigate those things, because life is risky. So like I always tell you guys, if you're scared to get married, get a prenup. A prenuptial agreement is a blessing from the Lord. It protects both parties equally. A prenup will mitigate your risk. Birth control vasectomy will mitigate your risk with children. Buying a house below your means with an emergency fund, protect you financially. I'm telling you right now, the 3 biggest entanglements in your life, and getting out of them can destroy your life. It'll make you suicidal. I know someone who committed suicide after a divorce because he had all 3 of those entanglements unraveled and he couldn't handle it. And I don't blame him. I know women who've gone into deep depression because of that. I talk about living a free life. I think about buying a home base. I don't think about a relationship anymore. I don't struggle with that at all. But I think about everything as, how entangled does this get me in something? What's my exit strategy? Why does that matter? Quality of life, mental health, physical health, financial health. You have to give your life some thought. The system is almost designed to entangle you. Once you buy a house, your financial future is locked into that budget. Someone bought a house, and when they went to work the next day, the boss was so happy for them, they couldn't understand it. They said, "Why are you so happy I bought a house?" He goes, "Because now you're going to be my best worker. You have to pay off a mortgage." The system is not evil. The system capitalizes off human nature. Human nature has a need to connect with other people, to reproduce, and to find shelter. So can you escape the entanglements that are almost preset? Yes. Why? Because you can use some things that are legal and in place to protect you from being stuck. The number one thing you can do is, again, protected sex, again, vasectomy. The second thing is prenuptial. The third thing is don't allow a bank to approve you for something that you haven't thought out. Debt is an entanglement. Consumer debt, household debt, college loan debt. I think a lot of people got fucked with the college loans. Why? Because, guys, that's really useless at this point in society with the coronavirus. Certifications are good, but a lot of people get screwed with that one. What a disaster. Society set a trap for a lot of people. Now, once you have kids, family, a house, your life is pretty much set. Is there a reset? Yeah, there's a reset. There's a reset after a divorce, after a death of someone. You get resets in life, but you only get so many. I remember a guy, good guy, he had a son who struggled with drugs. And I understood his struggle because I saw one of my siblings do that, and I saw the struggle my mom had with it. And I think his son will probably struggle with it the rest of his life. Most drug addicts do. But I remember him saying what he told his son. He said, Sam, you know what I told my son? You're in your mid-20s, and he was getting sober. He goes, you have a reset in life. And he goes, I told my son, I don't know if he'll take heed. He goes, but I told my son, you only get so many resets. And it's true. You do get resets in life. You do get second chances. You are able to change your life. It is possible to change your life. It is possible to change your life. You have to put some effort, some thought, and some decisions to it. That's why I don't buy like some of these people who are so gun-ho, like the court system and everything's against them. Guys, get a prenuptial. Guys, get a vasectomy. And same thing for girls. I know girls making more than some guys. Don't buy a house for a garden. Don't buy a house for a garden. Don't buy a house for a view. Don't buy a house for a view. Only buy a house if you can afford it. Why? You want to be independent? You want to be free from some of the burdens in the world? You have to give your life some thought. The system is not designed to hurt you. The system is designed to capitalize off human nature. And self-control is understanding human nature and then consciously checking yourself. You're horny, you're addicted to sex, you have to start checking yourself. Maybe you should be looking into some procedures to mitigate your risk. You're addicted to love. I know a few girls who are addicted to love. There was a song that Rihanna had, Addicted to Love. I like that song. That's okay. But you should think about once you seduce someone into loving you and you want to be by yourself and eat your ice cream and you don't want to be bothered, you can't get rid of them so easy. You should think about if you can't reproduce kids, why are you doing IV injections? Not good. Not good. You need a house. A lease is an entanglement. A mortgage entanglement. What's your budget? Do you know a budget? Do these things matter at all to you? Do these things get taught to you at school? Nope. What do you learn in school? Algebra. I could tell whether you're doing remote learning or real learning. I can tell you right now, math is important, but most stuff you learn other than basic mathematics, you'll never use in the real world. Basic mathematics you're going to use. But unless you're into really a niche thing, most people I know, they don't know algebra. They don't know algebra. They don't know good mathematical formulas. Barely. These people, I mean, guys, you take away a calculator from a psychopath, guys, can barely add the, barely get the correct change back from McDonald's. What's important? science, biology. You learn how to dissect a frog in science class, but you never learn about a vasectomy, about tying your tubes, about protect. You don't learn about these things. Why? More important. Guys, have you ever ran into a situation in life where you needed to dissect a frog? I've never seen it. Okay, never seen it. Now, some of you surgeons out there, do you watch a guy living in his car? No, probably not. Why? Because you're busy trying to protect your assets, trying to get a prenup. Housing. You know, housing is a very emotional thing. You know, I have some atheists and some very scientific people that watch my channel, and shout out to them because I believe you should have the right to believe in nothing if that's what you want to do. But they don't think emotion has any part to play in society. But guys, the difference between a mathematical formula and emotion is human. If you don't have emotions, you don't have humanity. You know, you're just a bunch of robots. Okay? There's no exact science to life. But buying a house is very emotional. How it looks, how it feels. And that's important. But it doesn't override the science of how much it costs, how much is maintenance, how much are utilities, what's the square footage, what's the upkeep, what's the entanglement. Entanglement is a powerful word. I want you to tattoo that word on your forehead. Everything in life you do, I want you to think about, if this goes sour, how do I get out of it? Because chances are you're going to have to get out of it at some point. Nothing lasts forever in this world. And the more protected you are, if you do have to get out of it, the better you are. The better quality relationships, the better financially, the better physical and mental health you have. It's a blessing if two people love each other and protect themselves with a prenup or with a condom. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing if someone gets denied for a loan if they can't afford something. It's a blessing. Because I'll tell you right now, guys, if you can't get approved for the mortgage, you damn sure don't need a mortgage, okay? And I was one of those psychopaths, okay, that at a certain point in the early 2000s, I was trying to buy as many houses or as much house as I could afford. And I paid the price. I paid the price. I don't blame Wall Street necessarily for the housing crisis. I overbought. I overwent in debt. It was my own fault. I take accountability. You know, there was a part in the scriptures where Samuel, I read the book of Samuel because that's my name. And so let me see what this guy says. The bottom line was it was this guy that basically was telling people at one point, like a judge, telling people that you don't really want someone to control you. You don't want a king. You want to be free. And the people kept demanding that they need someone to rule over them, someone to control them. And I think about that in life, like, why do people get entangled in things? In one way of thinking and understanding human nature is people almost want to have someone else to blame, someone else to make the decisions, and someone else to structure their life. We all need guidance. But very few people want to take a journey to a free way of living outside of the entanglements set up in society to structure it and to capitalize off it. And the only way you're going to do that is if you're conscious of them, number one. Number two is you do some research on your own. Number three is you observe human nature. Don't just observe science class, observe human nature. Look at the relationships of your parents. Tony, welcome to the live chat access, aka the Yacht Club. You've been around for a while. Welcome, brother, and thank you for joining. I appreciate that. All of our members welcome you every day on this channel. I go live. Tony is the newest member. I appreciate you, brother. Welcome, celebration. If you want to be a member, click that blue join button, guys. 33 cents a day. You can't beat it. Gangster talk. He's a guy on the verge of a vasectomy. He says, a prenup is a bad idea for a man. Others always tell the woman your man doesn't really love you if you have a prenup. Good luck with that marriage. Well, I would say if you can't get your spouse to agree to a prenup, you shouldn't get married. So that's why it's a blessing. It's a win-win. Tony, it's great to have you. And we welcome you and we appreciate you. Thank you, Tony. Gangster Talk. A prenup is a blessing no matter how it's perceived. Because if you're getting ready to get entangled with someone till death do you part, or at least that's what they say. And if they can't accept the fact that you want a legal document protecting both. Again, I know women who make more money than men, okay? So guys, we're in a new world. And I think both men and women serve themselves good to get a prenup. And I think if your relationship is not strong enough to get a prenup, you shouldn't get married. A prenup eliminates the need for men going their own way. It eliminates the need for, divorce court. Guys, get a prenup. And girls. Again, guys, I've worked for women directors, women making great money. Okay, very smart. Both people, men and women, if you cannot get a prenup, you shouldn't get married. Men and women, if you cannot get approved for a mortgage, you shouldn't get a cosigner. If you can't get approved for a car loan, don't get a cosigner. These things are there to protect you. A vasectomy, a prenup, a pre-approval are all things that avoid the ultimate entanglements. And every time you try to get around those things, you will suffer great. Tony, or even better, don't get married at all. Well, hey, that's the gift that keeps giving, in my opinion. But see, Tony, me and you on the same page, brother. But I also want to acknowledge that there's other ways of life other than mine. And I think what I'm saying tonight is a very fair, good thing for all people, men, women, children, everyone. What have I seen people suffer from? Financial ruin, emotional ruin, broken families. How do we heal that? Well, one is we sit down with the person we're going to create a family with and we negotiate, okay, a fair contract, legally binding contract that protects both people. We don't have children based on lust, okay? We intentionally are either going to get a vasectomy, not intentionally going to use birth control or not. We are going to form a new way of life that protects people, that teaches people. Now, again, if you can stay single, I think you're going to be blessed. Most people I know are in relationships and it's an entanglement that keeps entangling. If God forbid, I've met some people that you lost your husband, you lost your wife, don't get married again. I think the second marriage it's like the second mortgage. I've had 2 mortgages. Meaning that I had a house, I got a mortgage on it, then I got a second mortgage. If you need a second mortgage, you should never have got the first. Oh, never do a second mortgage and never do a second marriage. Why? Because how are you going to get free if you keep entangling yourself? These are things, guys, that are more important than what they teach in school. You're never going to dissect a frog. You're never going to do algebra. You're never, okay? In history class, what they should teach you is the history of broken relationships, the history of broken finances. What you will find is one common denominator: too much entanglement. Not enough thought, not enough protection. I hope these conversations that I have with you as I talk out life with myself give you enough freedom to be yourself. You can get married, you can have a house, you can do whatever, but you can also protect yourself. And I think that's very fair and good for everyone. For children, for mothers, for fathers, for the single free birds like me and Tony, anyone. Why would we not evolve as humans and realize the biggest threat to humans is not the COVID-19 virus, it's entanglements. Ask Jada Smith, ask Will Smith, look at his face. Will Smith will be a meme for the rest of his life. You won't remember Independence Day. You're going to remember the meme of him when Jada told him, I got caught up in an entanglement. My mother, I was talking to her the other day. She had an argument with my sibling. She's 72. One of my siblings is 42, and they're still beefing. Still beefing. And my mom, she looked at me after they got done arguing, and she said, Sam, one of the best things you did was stay single. You don't have anything to worry about. She goes, when you're a parent, you never stop worrying. Having a child is the ultimate entanglement. That's why I say think about how many kids you want. Think about how many kids you can handle. Like some people say, how many kids do you want? I say, how many can you handle? Some people say, think about owning your own house. I say, how much house can you handle? How much square footage? Some people blame women. Some people blame men. I say, well, if you're so intelligent, why didn't you get a prenup? You're not intelligent. And if your relationship is so strong, why couldn't you both be adults and agree to certain terms? Oh, let's take a hydration break and let's learn some lessons today. Tony, love to you. Gangster Talk, love to you. All my members out there. Whether you're living in your Envy RV, like my girl Zakia in Alaska, shout out to you, I appreciate you. Or if you're like Juliana in a shack, she had a deadbeat dad. Or whether you're like Tony, single for life. Whether you're like Geico in Australia, whether you're like Frank Breeze, he getting caught up in maybe an entanglement in Midtown Manhattan. Oh, be careful, guys. Most of what you learn in school ain't gonna help you in the real world. Because the real world is based on capitalizing off human nature. And human nature will get you in entanglements hard to get out of. So what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about what we talk about every day on this channel in one form or another. And that's how to live your best life. Whether you want to have children, whether you want to have a family, whether you want to be single, whether you want to be a homeowner, a renter, or a nomad. We're talking about how to protect the upside of your life. The way to protect the upside of your life is to protect the downside, to mitigate the risk, to have legally binding contracts with every entanglement, to not even getting into a legal bonding contract, whether it's a mortgage or a marriage, until you give it some thought and some serious consideration. Be willing to lose a house in a bidding war. Be willing to lose a fiance in a prenuptial negotiation. Be willing to lose a child in a miscarriage and not force IV intervention. This is the real life that you should remember, entanglements. It's a hard conversation to have, and I can understand it's abrasive. But I think about my life and my life experience and what I've seen and what I've avoided by the grace of God and what I suffered through. I suffered through years, guys, of an entanglement with a house sometimes. It determines what jobs you take. Just mentoring people is an entanglement. Relationships are hard to separate from. People feel like they need to be with you the rest of your life. Just blocking someone on YouTube can create a lifelong enemy. Think about trying to separate yourself from someone you have a child with. It's an entanglement, man. So what I want to do for myself and for others, and again, I put no expectation on others. Everyone has to live their own life, guys. These are my thoughts, my opinions. But I think they have value to at least meditate on and give some extra thought. Because since the beginning of time, since biblical times, people have been begging for someone else to control them. Why? Even when people are free, people want someone to rule over them. Why? Because I think it comes down to people want to avoid working on their own life. I really do. I think it's not necessarily bad to want a relationship, to want children, and want a house, the biggest entanglements in your life. It's not bad, but it's bad if you don't protect yourself a little bit, if you don't think about it a little bit. You know, I think one of the biggest mistakes I made in owning a home was I owned it too early. I didn't know anything about finances, about what a house is. A house is a financial marriage. I was totally naive. And many people start that way off when it comes to having a child and having a marriage. I saw Boozy, the rapper. He's got 6 kids. One of his, he takes care of them all financially. But emotionally, it's a big entanglement. Again, I know a guy working. Him and his wife both respect each other, both working people. Him and his wife make the same amount of money. So, like, it's a falsehood, too, to think, like, it's just a prenup is just protecting a man. I know people who recently got divorced. Him and his wife make the same amount of money, just about. But the biggest issue, okay, is dividing the time with custody of their child. And then, based on that dividing of time, how do you divide assets? There was no prenup. There was no pre-thought. There was just pre-cum. If you have a child, if you're a mother, I think you should talk about this with your child. I know one guy, he has a kid right now, 14-year-old kid. Just about, well, maybe not 14, but close. The child's approaching the teens. And I asked him, I said, did you have the birds and bees talk or whatever? And he goes, nah, not yet, not really. And I think maybe because I don't know if his child has like a learning disability, he thinks his child won't be having sex. I said, bro, a lot of psychopaths having sex, man. Tony, just pre-cum, great one, Sammy. Thank you. I'm trying the best I can. 3 years on YouTube is not easy, man. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you, brother. Love to you, man. Thank you for everything. But look, guys, and I don't mean to call children psychopaths if they have a learning disability, but I'm trying to make the point that just because someone has a learning disability doesn't mean they have a physical disability, right? So maybe someone can't comprehend Shakespeare, but I guarantee you biologically they can get a hard-on, okay? And once you can get a hard-on, or once you have a period, you can produce a child. And that's the biggest entanglement in the world. So why, if you really care about your children, when they're 12 years old, why wouldn't you tell them about entanglements? And why wouldn't you maybe even get them on birth control? If I had a daughter, I would tell her, look, you're becoming a young woman. I love you. I hope that I've set a good example for you. But I think you should be on birth control until you're, I think you should be on birth control, period. And then obviously once you turn 18, it's up to you. And, if she's going to have sex, her decision. And if I had a son, I don't, I don't know. Look, they get the kids, circumcised, maybe get a vasectomy, get it reversed. But it's that serious. Would I help my children buy a house? Well, look, my mom helped me buy a house, and I thank her for it, but I also don't know if that was a good thing in one sense. Again, everything works out for its best, but I think that, again, if you can't afford a house on your own, I don't think you should have one. I know people right now, they're struggling with paying their mortgage. So what do they have to do? They have to go on Craigslist and get a roommate. Fuck that. That's an entanglement times 2. Now you have a mortgage and a roommate. That's 2 entanglements, total disaster. The more entanglements, guys, the more stress. What destroys people's life? Is it terrorism? Is it COVID-19? It's entanglements. I guarantee you'll know more people that will suffer through entanglements than COVID-19. Like now we're trying to educate people on wearing a mask. Okay? I got to wear a mask in every store I go to in New Jersey, and I got no problem with it. So if we're that conscious that less than 1% of society has died from COVID-19, okay, if we're that, why don't we have the same consciousness of wear a mask on your penis? Okay. Why aren't we that conscious of protect your savings account? Not having a savings account will destroy you financially. You won't care. Believe me, guys, when you have nothing in your savings account, you don't care about COVID-19. You fucking like, fuck it, I'll die broke. I ain't got shit in the bank. What really hurts people in real life, money problems, relationship problems, and children problems. And let me tell you something. Again, my mom's 72, my sibling 42. She's still in some shit with that. It never ends. The entanglements is what causes humans to suffer. I want less suffering for myself and others. I want everyone to do what they want. Have 5 children, have 5 houses. But remember this conversation. Let it add some value to your life. So Tony, brother, thank you, man, for joining. Gangster Talk, thank you for the super chat, brother. I hope you continue to get that vasectomy. I really do. We got a guy who watches my channel. His tag name is Team Vasectomy. He says he works in, what do they call it, like a urologist or whatever, where people get vasectomy. I know a guy who got a vasectomy. I have 1 kid. He's going back to court the 2nd time. Why? Trying to renegotiate his custody. Told his ass. But he's also entangled again. He's basically got another family. I don't know. But we're all on our own journey, guys. These are my observations of 40 years on this earth. And this is kind of what holds me back when it comes to what's my future plans. Well, I always say to myself, is this thing I'm thinking of doing going to make my life easier or harder? And most of the time, 90% of the time, I come back to, you know what? This is going to make my life harder. And I have to discipline myself to stay free from these entanglements. Tony, I wish I heard all these things when I was a teenager. Well, love to you, brother. I was a youth leader, and I thank God for my church, team leader or whatever. And we had teenagers, and I wanted to talk about pornography and sex and masturbation. And they say, you can't have that conversation. Those children don't need to hear that. We don't believe in masturbation. You know what happened was the pastors got caught in an entanglement. They got caught in divorce. They lost their church. They lost their family. Someone should be teaching teenagers not just to have a sobriety ring, but to have a condom ring, have a masturbation ring. Save your life from entanglements. Women, men, young people, soon as you hit puberty, soon as you hit the age that you can start getting a mortgage, that you can stop taking on college loan debt, that you can start taking on consumer debt, that you can start taking on car loan debt. Debt's an entanglement. I think there were certain parts in the scripture where you couldn't leave a town. You couldn't leave a town until you paid off your debt. Because it wasn't like it is now, like you take on debt and, you can still move, but it goes with you. Think about that. And think about your freedom. How much do you value your freedom? I know this goes internationally throughout the world, YouTube. Many people watch me. Again, we got Geico, Giuliano, a couple people from the UK who watch me. One guy from Saudi Arabia. But in America, one thing like we speak highly of is freedom. And we always bitch and moan at the system that the system doesn't give us enough freedom. But what I learned in life is really people self-induced voluntarily give up their freedom for choices. And it's not a conspiracy. It's human nature being capitalized off by corporations, by other people who don't want to work and they catch you in a bind and now they can screw you. Tony, is Giuliano still coming to the chats? I haven't seen her in a while. I don't know if she ever will again or not. Again, I put no expectation on my viewers or my members because I want them to have freedom. I know how it feels to have someone expect you to come to church or come to the chats. I hope that people stay with me for as long as they want to. But when I do a live feed or when I do a video, I discipline myself to never expect anyone to watch or comment or join. I hope they do, but I never expect it. Because I would want that same thing if I was on the other side of YouTube. And that has allowed me to be free in my creativity. Because YouTube is like real life. I've had a lot of relationships over the 3 years I've had YouTube that I've lost viewers and I've gained viewers. And people come and go, and that's part of life. So I pray for people that I've had on my channel and people I still do have on my channel, and I also let them be. You know, it's hard to be in a relationship and give people freedom. Because a relationship is like the opposite of freedom. It's entanglement. It's a Jada Smith. Do I think it's possible to be in a relationship without being entangled? No. I mean, virtually is as close as it's going to get. A YouTube friendship, an online, that's as close as it's going to get. Because, you can dissolve that relationship very simply. And that's why I do like technology. I do like YouTube. I do like that social. I don't have any other social media, just YouTube. But in real life, it's not as easy as that. It's not as easy as creating another profile, creating another channel, blocking someone. I've had someone live with me before. Do you know how hard it is to get them out? And they're good people, and I'm good people. But, look, relationships come to an end. For whatever reason, it's not just lovers, it's friendships. Friendships come to an end. And sometimes I've been the wrong one. I'm not sitting on a high horse and say I've always been the one that was right. I've been wrong in relationships. Had wrong expectations, wrong demands. Now, always remember, when you're living in someone else's house, it's their rules. And that could become a bad thing. And that's why I tell you, if you have the physical and mental capacity, go out there and live on your own, but don't buy a house. Not until you're financially ready for that big entanglement. Home ownership used to be part of the American dream. And for a big reason of it is because the banks are the biggest. They're the biggest rewarder. They're the biggest people who get rewarded through home ownership. Most people have a mortgage. And again, even if you don't have a mortgage, you have property taxes, utility bills, maintenance. You have obligation, you have entanglement. And that creates your life, your lifestyle. It does, though, give you back something. It gives you stability, it gives you comfort, climate control, security. A certain level, no guarantees. But at what cost? Every entanglement should have an exit strategy. Whether we're talking about marriage with a prenuptial agreement, whether we're talking about children, how many do you really need? How many do you want? Or whether we're talking about loans. When you're young, you have no idea that how long it takes to pay back loans. I didn't. I remember even my mom did warn me when I was borrowing too much money. She goes, Sam, you got to pay this back. I still feel embarrassed even thinking about how much money I borrowed at times. Not good. Still feel embarrassed. And what I would tell anyone out there is the simpler you can keep your life, the better relationships you'll have. If you do want to be in a relationship, a simple, honest relationship is the best relationship. Because then you can fully experience one another for who you are. What happens after every relationship is over? You say, I lost myself and I don't know that person anymore. Why? Because two people have become what the other person's expectation of them are, and they can't evolve and change. 5 years changes a person. I'm a different person than I was 5 years ago. I'm still very similar. I still have like a core essence of me, but I'm not the same at 40 than I was at 35. I'm damn sure not the same I was at 40, at 20, etc., etc. So, think about how much life changes in 5 years. Do you want to get a 5-year loan on that car? How long is 5 years? 5 years changed a lot. Why should we think about time? Now, time does go fast when you look back, okay? But when you go through it, time could be eternity. You think you could spend 5 months in solitary confinement? It'll break you mentally. That's just 5 months. Okay. So, the worst thing that you can do for your mental health is feel like you can't get out of something, that you're trapped. And financially speaking, same thing. Emotionally speaking, same thing. These are the entanglements that you must avoid. Not only must you avoid them, you must remember them. You must remember them. Why? So that you don't go back to them without the precautions. Without the precautions. If you are going to go back to an entanglement, take the precautions. Take the condom. Take the prenup. Take 24 hours before you purchase anything big. Stretch PK. Thank you for that positive comment. Thank you, brother. Thank you for being a member. You and Tony tonight. Thank you for the words of encouragement. Thank you for watching, for being part of the channel. Thank you. Gangster Talk, thank you again for the super chat. I really appreciate the encouragement, guys. I put no expectation on you guys to encourage me, but I'm grateful for it. And I want to communicate that with all my soul. Grateful for you, Stretch PK. Everyone working the night shift, I'm grateful for you. You know, these videos, they started out, 3 years ago. I started my channel in July 21, 2017. It's, as I make this video, it's July 20-something, 2020. So it's been about 3 years. And in the beginning, I did basic videos about downsizing my life. I did videos, though, about weight loss. I lost 200 pounds at that point. Videos about moving to Florida. And now I think about, I think intentionally about really every video to me has to have a component of value and meaning. Now, look, there some of it is a level of entertainment. There's no doubt. But look, I really do feel at this point, I even look at my younger videos. The value is, look, we're trying to get to our best life. That's the value. But however you define it, I know that I'm very strong in my speech, at times very intense. But I also know through looking back at the context of my videos, I give a lot of liberty for people to do whatever they do you. Okay? So what I'm saying tonight, if you are going to do you, and you're going to get married, have children, get a house, I want you to take precautions to avoid a serious entanglement that can destroy not only your life, but your family's life. Your family's generational wealth. Giuliano! Australia's back in the house. Yes, Tony, I'm here. Hand wave. Just been a spectator sport for me lately. No problem. And I appreciate it. I give your space. Juliana and Tony, thank you for joining tonight. Thank you for asking about her. Tony, shout to you. Good viewer. Been with me for a while. I'll never forget you. Give people their space. And, and if you can't give people their space, because I've been in some relationships, I thought I could give people their space, but I wasn't emotionally ready to do it. I couldn't handle it. And then I had to totally separate. When you can't handle it, separate. For your well-being, for the person you say you love, their well-being, and if you have children, for their well-being. Nothing healthy comes out of forceful intervention. Tony says, great, Juliana. Hope you're doing well, feeling good about life. Yes. And if you're feeling bad about life, reset your life. And I do believe a reset in life is like a renovation life. It all starts with unraveling entanglements. Going back to the studs, stripping your house to the studs, and selling your house. And putting boundaries up with your family member, even your children. Again, I know a mother's heart. My mother would always communicate to me, Sam, you don't know what it is to be a mother. It's a burden. And I feel for Juliana and all my mothers out there that watch me. I have some great mothers that watch me. Think about also Maggie, who joined me recently. She's getting ready to raise a child. There's nothing wrong with raising a child. Guys, it can be a huge blessing in your life. I say be careful, though, how many you have and if you really want them. And I say that, look, it's, again, I can only speak from my life experience and what I see in other people's family. I see my mom at 72 and my sibling at 42, and in one sense, it's the same as when I was 22. They don't change. But guys, not a lot of people change. Okay. That's why I always tell you, I want you to focus on your best life so that you can change your life, because very few people will. And that's why you can't pour your energy into trying to change other people. You have to pour all your energy into changing yourself. That's a full-time job for the rest of your life. Let's take a hydration break. Juliana, she says, trying to get out of entanglements and continue to downsize my life. And simply at the moment, this live is really resonating with me at this time. Well, Juliana, thank you for saying that. Juliana, Stretch, PK, Tony, thank you for your words of encouragement. Thank you for being members. All my members out there, thank you. Thank you, Gangster Talk. Thank you, everyone who watches my videos for just watching. Because if we're watching, we're connecting. If we're commenting, we're connecting at a deep level. But again, I know that everything has a season. I know that time is like a river. You can never touch the same spot twice. So I'm grateful for this moment in time, but I want you guys and girls to have the freedom and the empowerment and the confidence to go out there and build your best life. You know, I really do feel, I remember I heard this motivational speaker say it one time, and I thought it was a little bit of a sales pitch, but I think it's really true. They asked this motivational speaker, they say, why do you think most people fail in life or most people don't succeed? And he goes, not just financially, but in their relationships, in their life, period. Not just financially, but every way. And the motivational speaker, he answered just like this, and I thought it was so interesting. He goes, lack of self-esteem. Most people fail in life, not just financially, but in their relationships, because low self-esteem. Low self-esteem. And the interviewer said, what do you mean by that? Because it sounds too simple. And he goes, simple. He goes, lack of confidence. He goes, it takes confidence to build your life. It takes confidence to go out there and change your life. You can't change your life if you're insecure. You can't change your life if you look at yourself like a scumbag, like an asshole. You can say you're changing your life. You could say you hate everyone, but you can't really do it. Because the level of your journey, you have to walk alone. You have to get out of entanglements. You're blessed if you have good parents. And I think, look, my family had dysfunction, like every probably just about family. But overall, I had good parents that loved me, tried to do the best they could. But a level of my life, to get out of certain cycles in my family, I had to walk alone, okay? I got in a support system for a while with a church and other groups. But then I broke loose from them too, okay? So, most people I know, that extra to get out of something, whether it's get out of family dysfunction, get out of a support group, get out of whatever, they don't have it. And a lot of it comes to lack of self-esteem, which equals lack of confidence, which equals lack of being empowered. Now, just knowing you're not alone in your thoughts. So if we're sharing on this on live feeds every day, and we're connecting at a certain level where we kind of like feel what each other are saying, then we're empowering each other for saying you're not alone. What does every support group have in common? Don't matter if you're Weight Watchers, a religion, or Alcohol Anonymous. Every support group is based on one premise: you're not alone. Once you know you're not alone, you're empowered to say, okay, I'm not crazy. Okay, now some of you crazy, okay? But then the next step is you got to do the work. Okay, and that's where the next group of people fail. So one is you get empowered by just knowing you're not alone. That's good. The next step is I could be the greatest inspirational nomad ever. But the next step is, as great as I am, and I don't think I'm that great. I don't think any of us that great. I think we have moments of greatness. I think we're all human, okay? I think we all have greatness in us. I think some people unlock it and spark something in you, just like I had people do it for me. But then the next step is you have to work on yourself. And it's a daily discipline. How do you work on yourself? Look at your daily routine. How do you work at yourself? Look at your daily routine. Who do you talk to every day? Who has your phone number? What do you eat just about every day? What's your spending habits? Look at your budget. Your budget shows your behavior. Your past, I want you to look at your phone and look at your recent call history. That predicts your behavior. I want you to look at your email. I want you to look at your text messages. If you're keeping text messages from 2 years ago, not healthy. Not healthy. Juliana, I read that. Tony, all these principles Sam is pointing out to live a good life are so valuable. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you. They are very simple. That's it. Life is very simple. But no one talks about them. Thumbs up to you. And most people do the exact opposite. Human nature. Corporations capitalize off human nature. Okay? Self-control leads to getting out of the system. If you really want to get out of the system, check your human nature. Check your desires. Now, you could still fulfill your desires. You could still cream pie. You could still buy a house. You could still have children. But check them. Put the prenup in. Put the birth control in. Put the budget control check in. Put it all in. And you could still do things, but then you can do them with some backstops. And he goes, most people do the exact opposite. Yep, making their life tough. If you Google it, Tony, that's a good comment, brother. Love to you. If you Google, I Google this stuff sometimes. If you Google what percentage of people are happy, it comes up that only about 20% of society in the world are happy. So 70 to 80% of people are unhappy. A big portion of them are on medication because they're suffering mentally. A big portion of them, 70, 80% of society, living paycheck to paycheck. Guys, Dave Ramsey, and I give him credit, just like I give my pastor credit, but I also broke loose from my pastor because got caught in dogma, and I broke loose for Dave Ramsey a little bit because just some things I couldn't agree with. But I give Dave Ramsey credit that he teaches some principles that if you follow, you can help yourself. But you have to acknowledge, Dave Ramsey's been around for 20, 30 years, preaching these same principles. And the same amount of the human population is living paycheck to paycheck. That hasn't changed, really. Why? Because very few people change, even when you give them the principles. And that's why the biggest views are gossip videos. Because once someone realizes they can't change, what do? Gossip and slander. Because if I can't change, let me fucking point someone out that I think is worse than me. Or let me blast someone else to tear them down. Get away from people who gossip and slander. They're going to fuck up your life. What fucks up your life? Bad relationships, bad people. There's good people out there, guys. But those good people ain't spending time gossiping and bullshitting. Okay. The company you keep, big part of your life. Big part of your life. Juliana, I have so much respect for you, Sam, and your words of wisdom. Well, it's reciprocal. We're in a reciprocal relationship, Juliana, where the respect and the admiration is mutual. Neither one of us are putting each other on a pedestal. Neither one of us are entangling us into expectation, and we have freedom to go live our lives. Now, that's very hard to get. But if you're not in a reciprocal relationship, don't stay in it. Don't stay in it. Because it's just not worth it. Not worth it. Julian, I have to let go of the land because of the entanglement, ongoing draining maintenance, going to be full-time nomad. Nothing wrong with that. You can rent at an RV park. You can rent an Airbnb. You can rent an apartment. You can rent a house. There's always, guys, girls, you can do a lot of things to live cheap without owning land. Stretch PK. Dave preaches marriage hard and children. I totally agree. Stretch PK, you hit him hard tonight. Yeah, kind of scares me. Me too. Yes, that's what I was missing. Good job, Stretch. The biggest thing I disagree with Dave Ramsey, Stretch brought it to light, is every time someone calls him up, every time, and they say they're having a children, he goes, congratulations. Or someone calls them up, they're in debt, and they're thinking about having like in Venus, I don't know how to say this right, but they're going to artificially try to have children. In Venus injections, IV or something, they can't produce children, so they're gonna like have it in a test tube or get it inserted in them. He goes, oh, there's nothing more magical than that. No. That's bullshit. There's nothing more, one, financially that'll ruin you, and number two, emotionally that'll ruin you. Dave Ramsey don't know what the fuck he's talking about. And then Dave Ramsey tells people that if your child calls you, like when they're having child problems, just kick him out. Just kick him out. Dave Ramsey don't know real life, man. He don't know real life. That's what happens. He claimed bankruptcy. And he's too religious. He doesn't mind when the Federal Reserve bails out Wall Street. And he has a problem, like when people talk about like the government forgiving college loan debt. Guys, I think the government should forgive college loan debt tomorrow. You say, Sam, that ain't right. Well, guys, it wasn't right that they pumped $7 trillion in the stock market either, but it keeps society going. Guys, the second round of stimulus is coming, universal basic income coming, and that's fine. Why? Because it just creates more spending. Guys, you give people money, what do? They spend it. 70% of the U.S. economy is spending. And that's not a bad thing. I just tell you, spend within a budget, live below your means, and I do agree with Dave Ramsey, debt's dangerous. Now, he preaches no debt. I still have a credit card I paid off every month. Again, everything in life is take the good out of something, leave the bad. I'm sure there's parts of my videos that you guys disagree with, and that's good. Think for yourself. I'm not raising a bunch of people like, follow me blindly. Now, think for yourself. Do you, guys? And that's what I tell you. You want to have a kid? Do you? How many do you want to have, though? You want to get married? That's fine. Have a prenup. You want to get a house? That's fine, but check yourself. Because, guys, very hard to get out of. Thank God for every house you lose in a bidding war. Thank God for every loan you get denied. And as hard as this may be to hear, I still want to say, because I believe it in my soul, thank God for every miscarriage. I know that's hard to hear. But what I want to tell you is, I know someone who had 2 miscarriages. And they kept forcing the issue, and then they had a child born with serious health problems, and they're going to be with them the rest of their life. That hurts my heart for the children. I care about children. Okay, I've done mentoring programs. I've been involved, and what I can tell you is, guys, it's not easy being a child. Nah. This is how I feel. This is what I've seen, and I'm not saying you can do things in life where you can avoid mishaps or you can avoid imperfections. But I think there's a way to live life where you can avoid some entanglements that can cause more suffering. And I think that makes for a better society. I think that makes for better mental health, physical health, financial health. And I think that's a good thing. If you really care about humanity, then I think you would hear these points, Giuliano. They really should teach this stuff in high school. I agree. If we're pressing to have schools reopen in a pandemic, which I understand why, whether we do it remotely or whether we go back to school, how much do you really take with you from high school or even college and apply it to your everyday life? What's the biggest thing people struggle with? Divorce? Maintenance on their house, selling their house, that's the stressful thing. Buying a house, stressful thing. Having children, the biggest stress. You don't think about algebra. You don't think about dissecting a frog. And history lessons, guys, we're tearing down Christopher Columbus. And that's good. I think for me, it don't matter. I think it's good. I think, look, we're learning a lot of things, and it's good. We're evolving. But I want us to get to a whole nother level of humanity where we think about what causes the human condition to suffer more. And for me, what I found out is it's not the only things, but one of the major things that does is these entanglements that we're talking about tonight. There's other factors in society, but these are some major ones. And if you believe that part of life is to make life better for yourself and for others, then I think these things should have value and priority in your life to give thought to. And that's the message tonight, guys. I hope it helped. And Tony, I want to thank you again for joining. Thank you, Giuliano. Thank you, Stretch BK. Thank you, Gangster Talk. Thank you to everyone out there who watches my videos. I truly appreciate you. I don't take you for granted. I don't put an expectation or demand on you. I thank you, everyone. Okay, love to you, appreciation to you, gratitude to you. Keep pushing forward. If you fall, you get back up. Remember, the first step to resetting your life is unraveling the entanglements in your life. The first step to resetting your life is unraveling the entanglements in your life. And once you get free, stay free, or stay as free as possible. God bless.